liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody.
That's here.
Call the meeting to order.
Nothing to add or
No,
make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Morning.
Approve the minutes, so March 13th. I read through those. They look really good. I'm kind of sad I missed the meeting that lasted for 20 minutes. But even with that said, I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Discussion. General public, anybody sitting over there wants to talk? If not, Ben, you're up.
Morning.
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 Just got the one item on the agenda to set date and time for the 5-year construction program and secondary road budget. DOT requires that we have that submitted by the 15th of April. Get it on next week if possible.
Next week.
Did we find
Okay. Okay.
will be
So that still
27th.
gives us a week, right?
But still give us a week if something.
If something changes.
I'll get a notification, set up the newspaper
Yes.
to get
That's
published.
one change.
So by
We get
noon.
Yeah.
So I'll put that on next week then. We got a sewer ordinance at 9 o'clock. That's today. Yeah, not next week. I gotta look for next week. How about, how long is that gonna take? Hearing at 9
If
o'clock.
there's no questions on it, I can. 10 minutes,
Put that on for right away.
Yeah. that's
Eight,
fine.
8:35.
8:35.
8:35, get her
I make a motion to that next week, March 27th at 8:35 for the public hearing for the fiscal year 24 secondary road budget and 5-year construction program.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Next week.
Okay, thank you.
See, they put a couple tags out on Lone Tree Road where they're gonna put the bridge in.
Yeah, I was out, I don't know, before the weather got cold again.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 Fridays ago, it was nice weather, so with, some temporary construction stakes out. Because the utility company needs to set a couple temporary poles
Okay.
and put 2 buzz tops in the gravel road where the bridge can
Start man. Okay. That's kind of what I figured those were.
I see old Leary's house.
I see that too. I wonder what the hell, hopefully it gets it sold before that, because otherwise it'd be
Yeah,
difficult to even get there.
yeah. Well, we still have a temporary easement with his wife, so I was, that would carry over
Yeah. To whoever buys
to
it.
whoever buys it. I've never come
Trish.
across that.
That's the next
That's
levy hearing, the
unusual.
third.
That would, you know, that
I'm
little
sorry.
tiny
The
window that's
next levy
over the
hearing,
years
the
that somebody's
third,
selling
no,
property.
yes,
third.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good that the easement's in place.
We are out blading, trying to get the roads scratched up today before the rain that they're calling for this week. Foreman going up with it, but Bruce reported to me. Good.
I would say that I got a phone call on Saturday, someone driving a tractor from one place to another and come across the spot in the road that looked like I'd have a suck hole where there was water on one side, so he called and I drove out there and I told Ben, I said, I don't know, it looked like it was freshly graded. I don't know if they just broke it, but it's a pretty good sized hole. There's water on the east side of States Avenue there. And Cliff called, he just said I would have stopped, but I didn't look in my tractor. Usually I would find something that I could mark it, but. So I just called Ben and had him run somebody over there this morning in case there was. But those are the ways, I guess, we have more eyes out there than whether it's the county people or some farmer sees something, report it,
Yeah, that way keep people
We
from
get
having
it.
problems.
so. Cause it was right in the traffic wheel lane of the road, so we appreciate the phone calls.
Good. Thank you.
Anything else, Ben?
No.
Anything for Ben? You look good today,
Thank you.
very well groomed. Moving along, Randy,
Only up there or here?
don't matter.
Where do you feel most comfortable?
Home.
Okay.
Well, you're honest. A lot of paper.
Always is.
I don't want you to be bored.
Come throw one down at Sandy's when you need one to.
Yeah. I haven't seen you for a while. I've been gone. And so I wanted to report a couple of things to you. If you recall back, I think it was November, maybe, that I came to you and we discussed the need, or from my point, a need for a digital process of permit application and document applications and storage of the information, understanding that we have at the current time, at least for the zoning, everything done basically on paper. And so I brought to you, if you look in your packet there was a company named iWorks who sent me information and I discussed it with him. The salesperson, it's the company out of Idaho. And I at that time, I gave you information of some of the things that were involved, and I also indicated to you that I had contacted people that have been using this, and they were very favorable to this. And many of the aspects that are listed there, I think, at least for the zoning purposes, would be very beneficial, especially going forward. And I think at that time I had given you that information. I'm giving it to you again. I've sent it to you again, I believe, recently, but sometimes it's nice to be reminded when it's been that long. After I met with you, I was unaware of the fact that the assessor's office also uses, I don't know if they use the whole thing or not, but the other one there is geospatial, spatial, a program similar, but maybe more extensive. And both of these, we have had presentations, Zoom presentations. Eric's been involved, Sandy was involved, I think Trish was,
Well, you were
I
gonna
made
ask.
one.
yeah, and Ben. We had kind of a subcommittee that was formed, Ben, Eric, myself, and Chris Madison, and looking at, okay, what do they provide? What do we need? That kind of thing. So on the first page there, I thought I'd just discuss the need. And as I mentioned, the need is, at least for zoning purposes, is to do what we do now with paper, to be able to do it digitally. It would be stored in the cloud, would be accessible to users and also customers, so to speak, or whoever. And so from that standpoint, that's where I was looking at it. Finding out then from other entities there that were involved, there probably is other needs. And I put out a survey. I don't know if you got the survey or not, but I put out a survey trying to get information from all the offices, and obviously they don't really know all the aspects of it. I only got a few responses. Some, didn't really matter if you're going to do something like this. Others said we want to stay with geospatial. One said, well, it looks like the iWorks is a good idea. So I'm kind of in a dilemma right now as far as, you know, which way you would want to go if you want to go in any direction. I would just mention that in that survey, I was kind of looking at what are the needs and what could you possibly use this for, if anything. And I think not knowing enough information from some of the people, they probably just didn't respond. Not knowing. I might ask Eric, because we have talked, and see if you have any comments about what you
Well,
would say you heard or
yeah,
know
I
anything.
do. I've thought about it. You know, you and I have talked. I got in on both presentations plus some other, you know, look at the information you sent. Well, I'll ask Ben personally, what was your comment on any need on the secondary road side for any of this? I'm thinking you didn't really think it,
I'd probably sit back and let somebody else work all the bugs out.
you didn't really see anything that,
Eventually, all of our permitting is gonna be this all systems permits through the DOT. So the individual moving permits are probably gonna go away. The other permits that we do is like driveway permits. I can't see us putting all of that online.
I just remember your commentary when, you know, Randy was looking for.
And the only reason is like, we don't charge for driveway permits right now. There's no administration fee to send Dave out to look at it. Tell the owner how many feet of pipe. So there's no way that we would be regulating where we can take that funding and put it towards an annual permit or something like that.
But it would make it more accessible to the.
Well,
customers, right?
It'd make, yeah, if there was an online permitting that somebody could fill out at home and submit.
But then again, Dave still has to go out.
Right.
and I think people are pretty familiar with checking with Ben and Dave and just stop in the office and say, hey, this is what we want to do.
That's all it takes.
It's pretty simple, and that's what I've always said when people have asked, just talk to Ben and, or stop in. I said, you'll get it taken care of just like that. You'll get the questions answered.
Right.
Everything.
The question be just how much information you want available, like online. You know, do you want all of this to be on a layer on Beacon, or do you want this all accessible on the cloud versus? Right now, we've got an old system that's an old filing system, so if we want to look back and look at Farmer Johnson and the last driveway you put in, you know, it's not organized. You know, it's not a searchable.
Right.
You'd say, okay, well, that was 2 or 3 years ago, and you go back.
You have to enter all that stuff in there to have it in there.
Yeah,
I think
Chance of that happens probably.
your
right.
comment was you really didn't make that big a difference right at this point. But so getting back to Randy's question, pieces this all together, it all started with the need on the zoning side of keeping track, because there's nothing. You know, nothing historical. Randy's writing this down. He came to us originally with the iWorks, is it? Which was more than sufficient for the zoning needs, and of course usable for other things. If I'm reading this correctly, there's a $3,000 startup and it looks like a $2,500 a year subscription.
I believe that's right.
So, and that more than you research that, I know quite a bit.
Yeah.
It worked for what they're using, it worked for what you would need. And nobody else really got too excited about it.
Originally, the company was willing to reduce the price or give a discount if we went with them before the end of the year.
Well,
Obviously, that wasn't gonna happen. I contacted them and they said, no, we have to hold to what we said, so we wouldn't get the discount, but yeah, I mean.
Other than the startup, it still looks like, for your example, it's a $2,500 a year subscription. So, and it covers the zoning. I mean, I could see moving forward with that. Randy's done a great job of, you know, keeping track of things in the permitting process better than we had previous year. Helps him out. You know, the Snyder one brings a lot of stuff to the table. But it doesn't look like from secondary roads to most other offices, anybody's gonna jump right on that, and it's extremely more expensive. So.
Aren't we using that already?
Well, not the bidding process part of it.
Yes, but we still have their software here.
Right, you use software, but
And you would have to have them to convert the information to the Beacon website also. Schneider would have to do that,
On a regular basis.
right?
So we'd still have to have
And there's-
Schneider involved plus iWork.
Right,
is that true, Randy?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, if you were doing the permitting through the iWorks, then you'd have to have,
That would be, if you're doing the
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
permitting.
right.
You were looking at this as just a keeping track of.
Well, no, it would be providing, and both of them look like they would be very customizable for what we need. And to be honest with you, I really think either one is fine. Obviously, cost difference, but the other thing is, you know, and I put this way, what are the needs and the uses? We're really not sure. Many of the people that I spoke to didn't just talk about it as permits. They talked about utilizing it throughout either a city or a county and using it for a lot of different things. I'm not sure that at this point, anybody really knows what they could use it for. They probably don't know, you know, enough about it. In my opinion, I think it could be used for a lot of different things, and you're gonna have a more of a centralized storage and accessibility to, you know, every board, every office, you know. I mean, I just see it as being more inclusive. If you wanna, you know, keep the cost down and just use the permitting for zoning for iWorks, that makes sense. I guess it's sometimes the fear of the unknown, you know. I don't have fear of it, but I know that it would take a while and more information to be able to come up with what can everybody use it for. My first intention, of course, was I was just looking at the zoning. But if you look at the, you know, what are the operations that are involved? You know, I don't know how much you've read through that. You know, I think on one hand, it would be good to have continuity. Just have, you know, one, it's more localized as far as, you know, the processing and the maintenance of it. iWorks is in Utah. They would provide a process manager for us. They would provide training, just like geospatial, you know. And so I guess it comes down, in my mind, is, okay, what do we need, where do we need it, and what's it cost? And we don't know all of those things, except we do know the cost, and there's a great deal of difference between the two.
On the Snyder, what is the annual cost? I look at that, it's 70, about $8,000 a year.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was about right.
Going forward, it'd be $8,000 a year.
But you're
And
also-
the other ones, you got your
Yeah.
setup costs.
Your setup costs are quite
High.
yeah, quite high. And like I say, I really don't see any problem with either one for the zoning side. I think the key is training and support and continual training and making sure that this is, and this was my intention to begin with, was to make sure there's more accessibility on the application side, on the storage side, and then also on the output side. You know, you mentioned, well, you can stop here, stop in the office over here. Well, you know, that's fine, but it's easier to make 2 or 3 clicks and you got it. You see what I'm saying? So everybody I talk to, everything I've seen, it looks like either one would be sufficient. So it comes down to how much continuity, maybe how much use there would be now and in the future, and then the cost factor. I'm not here today to ask you to make a decision by any means. Whenever you would want to bring it back up if you'd like. I just know that I would like to have it some sort of an idea. The salesperson from iWorks keeps calling me, what do you know, what do you know, what do you know? And I say, well, nothing yet, you know? And, of course, you know, he's in the business of selling stuff, so, but I would just like to see within not too long of a time that it would be decided. That would help to, provide then training set up. Whoever would be trained, you know, whoever needs to be trained, and those kind of things. And then hopefully, maybe by the end of the year, you know, we could possibly have, you know, a system in place. And then, again, maybe people will add things to it. Different offices will say, hey, you know, I'd put this on there, or I don't know. Maybe it would just be, you know, I know Linda, you know, utilizes some of it, and I think her comment was that might as well keep it consistent. And I think for the future, the main thing is the improvement from what we have now. You know, and I've got boxes probably of 4 years that I've been doing this filed, you know. I don't know what was filed before that, but they're all in here somewhere, right, Trish?
Yeah.
Now, you can't really go back and put all that in. You're still, but from my viewpoint, storage and accessibility is the key. So on one hand, they're both good, and on the other hand, they have, you know, maybe some deficiencies, I don't know. So I just wanted to get back to you. I would just say within hopefully not too long of a time, that you could contact me or whoever you think would need to be involved if you want to go this way. That we could have a discussion and maybe make a decision on it.
Well, I'm kind of confused by this iWorks price
Yeah.
proposal. It has $2,500
Yeah.
for an annual fee, then all these figures on the other
Yeah.
side are 1,500 scratched out, 1,500 or 1,000 scratched out, 4,900 scratched out, 7,400 scratched out, so then we got 500, 500, and 3,000.
Yeah, that was the initial proposal with the discount,
I
so.
understand,
But
but
you're
what
looking
I'm
at-
saying is, I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out this
What
one
did he
over
say
here
it
is
would cost
11
now
or
to start
12,000.
it
As I recall, I think it's somewhere, you're probably looking at $3,500, I would say.
for
total.
the first year.
Yeah, where the other, you know, the startup cost for the other is considerable more in the
And then I
yearly.
want to know what the difference is with this company working with this company, what we get charged.
Yeah,
for-
this will
Snyder.
Snyder charge, you think Snyder will charge us to move that material over?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Cause it is
So we
not,
may not
it's
gain
not
anything.
live.
Right,
no,
The other one is
because it's,
live data.
they're not gonna do it for another company,
No, they won't do it for free.
no.
Yeah, Ben.
My question is, are we looking at this strictly as like an online file cabinet that's gonna store all of these permits that you can go back and search? Or are you wanting it entered in as like a clickable layer that you can turn on Beacon, where you can see all of the building permits that
It's- That's where I would think if it was on the beacon, then you could see how it lays out on the property and
Mhm.
the iWorks provides that as well, but not necessarily through Beacon. And so I see that where I use Beacon all the time. But then you know, I go in, print something off, do measurements, all that kind of thing, you know, and
pen
but
and
it all
paper
ends up,
on top.
it all ends up paper, which goes in my file cabinet. You know, so there's gonna be a file cabinet of some kind, whether it's digital or paper. You know, but as you,
I know one thing down in the basement, we got lots of empty file cabinets
yeah, well,
And lots of full boxes.
and lots of boxes.
that would be less costly. And so, like I say, you can keep doing it the way we're doing it. I'm just thinking down the road, accessibility for people that, you know, want it. It's a changed world.
It is.
It's,
It's
you know,
the younger people.
Yeah.
Don't do anything on paper.
no, they don't. And so
I know
The only
she's
other
laughing
thing-
over in the corner.
Yeah. The only other thing is, I think we have to look at very carefully is trying to look into the future. And that's not easy to do. Who else is gonna possibly be able to use that? They don't even know it yet. You know, so, you know, you could go short term with one that's cheaper and look at it as maybe going long term with the other. Or you can just jump in, you know, with both feet. I obviously don't control the purse strings. And so, but from my
Could we get a
opinion,
number from Snyder, what it's gonna cost for them to put that information on Beacon?
Yeah, I don't
mean,
know.
How could we find that cost? Is it?
we could find it. The guy that gave the presentation was gonna get a final cost to Chris, so, but I don't think that was included. I don't recall that.
Yeah, he and Chris converse back and forth.
Yeah.
so. And he and I do too. I mean, I deal with him frequently.
I think that's,
To me, that's
the number we need to know.
no, because if it's gonna cost more to do it with fireworks than it does with Snyder, it'd be
Oh,
foolish to go.
oh,
get
And
it.
administration of it too. is
Right.
Another part, because I think iWorks has to be administered by somebody,
They provide a systems manager just for us,
right? But you have to have Beacon give you the file,
right?
and then a person here has to
Right.
upload it to the iWorks.
I would say either one probably has to have some sort of maintenance or processing at the, you know,
And I think,
because you don't know who's all coming from different directions. There's gotta be a hub of some kind that's managed by somebody probably.
Snyder does all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
On their side.
right.
For their program, but
Both of them, I would say. Basically, it says we own the information.
Right,
It's not like, you know, we can't get to it,
right.
even if you know, stop using it or whatever, it's county's information.
Who owns the information? Oh, the county.
County, it's, yeah,
Right.
wherever it is, it's, you're, because if you switch companies or quit
Yeah.
using them, it's, you get your information back. Yeah, they don't own the information.
I'm kind of skeptical because I'm old school and
Well,
I don't always trust the capability of
you just have to
them
look at
hanging
it.
on to that. you know.
Want to get into the modern age. And I've watched both presentations. The geo permits is already set up for online permitting, whichever permit you want, you can pick and choose. And the setup with the mapping, it's in the same system. It's, you know, you can see the cost here is significant. But about $8,000 a year, you know, you're gonna have startup
Eight versus
costs,
3,
yeah.
2,500.
But there again, get that number, what's their charge to disseminate, you know, information back and forth. And you can bite the bullet, and if you want to put something in place that speaks to online permitting, that you probably want to go with the GeoWorks program, because that's set up and that can do whichever permits you want.
We have homestead and military on our side, and we get a lot of homesteads and military signed up online.
So it could be a continuation then.
there could be.
It adds a,
They've gotten on to it, where, well, and I think the realtors tell them to get online and sign up for homestead.
so I see that with the building permits possibly, even though you may probably have to walk them through it to begin with. I can see it with driveway permits or whatever other permits, it's all online, it's all with the company that we work with, and it's all that layered thing you're talking about, Ben. It's all kept track of. It just costs more, but you're probably getting more for your buck too. And it's, you're not going back and forth between companies, and it's live mapping versus you know,
Yeah.
okay, here's your map, we'll, you know, get it over.
We'll
to your
get to
company.
that someday.
Yeah, we'll get it over there, that's fine, but then you're always doing that, so maybe to stick with the, and that's why this Schneider came up, because of the fact that it's being used.
I might
So, it
mention-
just costs more than the iWorks.
I might mention one other thing on the cost and some of the people that I've talked to that are in use of either of these. In some counties, they have those departments or offices that utilize it, share part of the cost in their budget. I don't know how that works, but that's what they told me. So,
Boone County
Well,
uses it extensively.
Pay out of my budget the whole mapping.
We could probably just take this whole cost and put it in the assessors budget.
Yeah.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. Well, then, that's not a problem.
Do we have a company we're working with now that does the same thing? That's my question.
A different company than these two.
That we work with right now. That does the same thing.
Not really.
Not to my
We don't have
knowledge.
it set up, other than what Linda said, that you have, the only thing online is homestead and military tax
And
credits.
we've got, protest, assessment appeal protest. Anything that we can have online that they can sign up for, we have it there. So.
But we are currently work with Schneider.
Yes,
Right.
that would be a
I think what you're saying, Dave, is we.
Yeah, there is.
Are with Schneiders, and if they are part of what we do, all we have to do is figure out, if you go with iWorks, how much it's gonna cost for Schneiders to put that information over to there. Then it's a done deal, we know what the numbers are.
We'll see if you can get that cost, somebody. And
I can work with Linda if she's willing to work with me.
I
see.
talked to Ryan the other day and he kind of just shot a figure, but I'm not gonna pass it on.
Okay, well, you get it more
We get
solidified.
something.
That and how much of it on your budget you wanna put, and.
None.
Oh,
All of that.
you are really not very workable today here.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
teasing you.
yeah, I know. We do the mapping and pictometry and we do, the Snyder and I don't have a problem doing it. If I have the money to do it, it's fine. But we love having that available, so.
Well, it's like any technology, if you wanna get into the modern age with technology, it costs money, so.
And we've been very happy with them. They bend over backwards for us, I think, so.
Well,
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
I think we
Yeah,
need
pretty good stuff.
prices.
The other thing on the agenda, I'll try to do this quickly. From the assessor's office, I have this document. I have more information than what's on this, but, and I'm not gonna, share all the information. I just want to give you an overview. They sent me this list of buildings that they've seen that did not have any kind of permit. This was for last year. There's 44 total.
Where did you get that?
This is from the assessor.
But the assessors, I'm assuming
Okay.
doing their ride.
Yeah.
And finding new buildings.
27 of those were listed according to the assessor's tax use as agricultural. And the rest were what they put on their website as far as their assessment is rural residential. Now, a lot of times that you're talking about, just a parcel that's used for a residence. It might be in a ag zone district, but it's just used for that. Well, that, when was that done? When were they? So you're looking at, was there a special exception use? Within that, who knows? I mean, this goes probably way back, for me to do the research on that would be probably almost impossible. And you have to take into consideration that House File 2512, which exempted farm buildings, not even we can't even require or request that they present one. In other words, the wording within our ordinance right now probably would have to be changed. It's not that we couldn't still have those things, but again, let's say that a farm they want to put something else in there, but it's not exactly farm related. We'll never know that because we can't even request or require them to present a permit. So it's like, where do I start? Where do I stop? And there are some that as far as violations are concerned,
State.
there's probably some in there, some from a year ago, one I know from a year ago. So I don't even know how to
Anything ag, you don't have.
present that to you. There's nothing in the ordinance gives direct orders of how that process, if somebody's in violation, how do we present that? There's violation costs that are written there, but how do you get to that point? And early on, I had asked you about that, and basically it was, and it's worked out fine. If somebody doesn't have a permit, call them, find out, what's it for, go out and say, if you get this permit in a short period of time, the board would waive that. Well, what's a short period of time? I've had some that, so I'm gonna send you, just to make this brief, a little more brief. I'm gonna send you this document. Okay, in my monthly report, which hasn't been done for 2 months, but I'm gonna send this to you. And then I'm gonna ask a few questions about it. And then at some point in time in the future, I would say we would probably need a closed session to discuss that. Because you're talking about names and that kind of thing, so. But if that's okay, I'll send you this document with all the information on it. And then some questions about it for you to consider, and then at a later time, we can maybe discuss that more. I will be sending out, as I do every time of this year, things in the paper and the radio station on requirements for permits. And so I'll be doing that again. And for the most part, I'd say it's helped. But obviously you can see, and I think one of the things is the House file on agricultural, they're saying, well, I don't need a permit for anything. Well, everybody else says, then I don't either. It's kind of backfire,
It's hard.
So from my viewpoint, it's just,
Like the farmer saying, well, I don't need to stop, but that stops.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But everything else does.
And that was one thing when we met with Farm Bureau a
Yeah.
few weeks ago, that our closing comment was that if you guys could just remind them, it's not required, but it sure does help if the building gets put in a place that's.
Whenever that happens, I tell them exactly that, and then I just say, you may voluntarily submit that permit at no cost. It's only for recording purposes. When we send an approval, if they do that, we send an approval. I send a letter with them. It's basically says they've submitted this voluntarily. According to this House File 2512, this is for recording purposes only, and that's filed with all the information. So that's how I've done it, and some of them do, some of them don't.
Okay.
How
So
do you handle when they need a septic permit or well or something like that?
well, I refer that to Nate for sanitation things, because I don't deal with that. So and sometimes normally when it occurs, I ask them, is there sanitation parts of this that need to be addressed? And of course, that applies to anybody. There's no exemption for that. The law simply is talking about buildings and use of the land.
So a new house out in the country, I think should be required to have a building permit.
The law says no. If that house is part of the
But it's
agricultural operation,
It's not. I mean, we don't assess them as an agricultural operation. They're assessed the same as the house on a residential acreage.
I see that as a separate thing.
It is.
It's a separate thing, and I don't see I don't see anything in the law that says it affects that assessment. It's just simply, they're just saying, we can't even, say you have to have one. The equity there is certainly, we've talked about it, there's no equity there.
It's another point where the state is trying to take over and tell everybody what to do. They're taking
Yeah.
ordinances and changing them. Well, you don't have to do this and you don't have to do that.
Right.
Our hands are tied, so.
And we're in the process of redoing the comprehensive plan, which, by the way, we'll have another meeting on April 4th. And so if anybody's interested, it's not on the group that's doing that, may, but we're gonna be redoing our ordinance. And there's a lot of things in there then that this is gonna affect. And so, trust me, it's not gonna be easy. So. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Randy.
Okay.
Nate, you're up. Ordinance 75. Motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance number 75.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is open. You wanna
Give us a rundown on what are we doing here with this ordinance?
So,
Is there any changes, basically?
so we've basically, what I was mainly wanting to add was the notification from the contractor to me. Just giving me at least a day heads up, when they're gonna install so I can plan, because especially during the busy season, it's gonna be hard for me to drop everything I'm doing if they say, hey, the tank's coming in 30 minutes and I can't get there at the time. I just want to make sure I have enough time to schedule that in, because, and not every contractor does this, but maybe they might change it up and it's not exactly how we had planned for it. And then I get there and now it's too close to the house or the property line or something, then it's not up to code at that point. So,
I mean, I think that's reasonable.
and yeah, and I mean, unless there's an emergency and they have to get it in right away, and most of them are pretty good about letting me know. But if there's not an emergency, they should know ahead of time, a day in advance, when they're gonna install. Or at very least, they could say, hey, we're planning to install around this time, so just kind of be aware of that. That helps me, so then I can plan around that, so I'm not busy in somewhere else.
So you're asking for a 24-hour notification?
Rough, yeah, 24, 48
Where's
hours
that?
Right under notification.
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 48 hours is more than enough. If they say 24 hours, that's fine as well. I'm not gonna be upset about that, but just at least a day or two in advance, just so I can plan for that, because again, the spring and the summer and even the fall, I'm really busy, so it's just hard to get out there if they tell me an hour before they're gonna install. And then also I think the variance was on there, but that's also in chapter 69. But on the other page, the notice of violation and the penalties, to my knowledge, the ordinance didn't have anything really with that. And if for some reason a contractor does something deliberately, not with our plans or notifying me, I would at least like the opportunity to give them a notice of violation to correct that. And then if they don't, then a penalty, just because I have the responsibility of making sure everything's up to code and done properly. And if it's not done properly, then it needs to be fixed. And then at least this way I have some backing to help with that. So, and again, I don't really have a lot of issues with this where I've had to do that, but in the future, I just want to make sure I can use that if I need to.
So beans, we share you with Pocahontas County, is this the same as their ordinance
Yeah.
is, other than the names have been?
Yeah, I copied
Right.
pretty much everything
Making
except
sure
for
that-
So they had this in place, or did you have to change?
yeah, they've
County?
had it.
They've had that wording. This
Yeah,
wasn't updated in Humboldt County. So I'm saying the 48 hours notice and then the little bit more enforcement violation penalty thing. Did they have that? Have they
Yeah,
had that
that's
for
all.
some time, or did they just enact that?
they've had it. Yeah,
They've had
since
it
before
you were there. So
Yeah,
This,
so-
we're just updating this and it reads, it'd be the same. then.
Yep, yep.
Makes your job simple.
Yeah, well, because I didn't know this, but the one for Pocahontas County, I thought since we're contracted, I thought, well, we could, carry over, but I found out we can't do that. So,
Each county needs their own.
yeah, which
Makes
it makes
sense.
sense, but
I got a question before we go on, but was this a misprint? Is the ordinance for the regulation and inspection of canning facilities, you reading that on the agenda?
Oh, yeah, he said he did say that.
I'm curious,
Yeah, that was misprint.
that's a misprint, so there's, we're just
There's a
updating.
difference between tanning and.
I'm not seeing anything to do with tanning, but I do understand.
Stay away from the septic tank.
I don't, yeah, so that was not, that was a misnomer.
All right,
That's
I-
another one that's coming up.
Okay, well, I do understand, so
we didn't get
basically,
any written, anybody write and say that they were opposing this, right?
No, because it was published in the
Yeah,
paper
okay.
on the 16th, right?
and Nate, wouldn't it be fair to say if you get people do call, which is 24 to 48 hours and let you know ahead of time and you're out there, that probably negates most of any violations.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's what you're
would,
trying to do is.
Yeah.
that They don't, you don't have to go back out the next day and say, well, you didn't have me out there and you were, this could have been easily avoided.
yeah, exactly. It's, yeah, I just don't want to have them to say, well, it's already in the ground.
Yeah.
And can you come out here? And well, it's not up to code. So, and it could have been avoided if you.
If you were out there, yeah. ahead of
Yeah.
time. So I would say that it puts it in line with what you're doing in Pocahontas County, copied off of theirs. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Is there anybody in the audience that has an objection to this?
I don't think they're here for this hearing.
Okay, well, I knew that, and I just gotta ask.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed, carried. Okay, approve the first reading of the Humboldt County ordinance number 75. What we just
I'd make a motion to approve the first reading.
I'll second.
Okay, ordinance roll call vote. Eric,
Yes.
Rick,
Aye.
Bruce,
I,
I'm also aye.
I'll make a
Ordinance.
motion to waive the second and third reading of the ordinance 75.
Have a motion to have a second.
I would second that.
I think that should be a roll call vote too. Eric,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Bruce,
I,
aye. Okay, I'm gonna move down to approve the 2080 agreement with Pocahontas County for shared environmental engineer with sanitary and services.
I think, well, unless you want to sit and listen to this.
That'd be you. That would be you.
That would be.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
that's why I
approve the
moved down
2080
too.
agreement. Must be up for renewal, I would imagine.
okay.
Okay,
And you're gonna keep doing what you're doing.
still happy working for us.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yep. Now you'll better off with the updated ordinance.
Yep.
I'm glad that you started growing a little beard, because when you walked in, I thought you were a high school kid. Here, and you haven't
Well,
gotten any older.
I'm trying. This is all I could get, you know?
Well,
Yeah, if I shave it off,
You look young.
yeah, or you'd be supposed to be in school.
Right, vice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get
Driver
that a lot.
racer across.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Did anything
They did it
change
wrong.
prior to last year? This is just gonna be renewal?
It's a renewal. I think the wage was different.
All right, will be billed
42.
for them and not exceed 38.2 an hour.
Sorry.
So is everything going good?
Yep,
Better.
yep. And for painting, it's been getting pushed back because I'm having Clay County come in and help train me for my first one. And we're gonna do my first one in Pocahontas. And they were sick and we had the storm. And so next week, I believe, I have my first one. And then once I get that done, I should be able to come into Humboldt and do the other ones. So,
Okay,
With your canning facility inspections.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's been decided too.
Did this, is the 2080 agreement approved by Pocahontas County previously? Anybody know?
I don't believe so yet, but
but we
I just got,
will put it together and then send it to them that we are gonna extend it another, is this just for a year?
Yearly.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2080 agreement with Pocahontas County on the shared sanitarian position that we have.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Right,
Opposed, carried. Okay,
Now you don't.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
okay, we're about 5 minutes running late. Tammy Nielsen, Program Manager, Iowa Prison and Data Boy. Better than the old days.
Morning.
Morning.
How is everyone?
Good.
Well, after we get to the tanning and the
Now that we know what we're approving. Man,
septic tank deal figured out, we're
Yeah,
good.
we're great. Okay, you're up.
Okay, so I am here today to discuss a partnership between LaGuardia Foods and North Central Correctional Facility located in Rockwell City. So I'm joined today by our warden, Chris Carborg. I have the deputy warden, Adam Yetmar, and then Barb Larson with LaGuardia Foods is also here to answer any questions. So this program operates under Iowa Prison Industries, which is the work training program for the incarcerated men and women of Iowa. And we operate under the Department of Corrections. And our mission is to provide meaningful work opportunities and train job skills for the individuals that are going to be released. And we know that here in Iowa, 90% of our inmates will be released at some point in time into our communities. So our mission is to provide work training opportunities and job skills to those individuals, which helps with recidivism here in Iowa and makes our communities safer. So LaGuardia reached out for potential partnership, which would be, again, using the men from Rockwell City. And Iowa code is written that we are allowed to partner with private companies if that company cannot find enough civilian workers to provide their labor pool. So we're here today to share a little bit about that, answer any questions that you might have as far as how that would work and any kind of safety concerns. You don't have to make a motion for approval. We're just really here to answer some questions that you may have and share a little bit about the opportunity.
Doesn't Hawkeye Leisure Trailer or Yacht Club also use prisoners?
Jetco.
Jetco does,
I
yes,
thought Jetco
yes.
did,
So
yeah.
they've been in our program for,
Many
gosh,
years.
many
Yeah.
years, maybe 8 years or so, using a dozen or so guys from North Central as well. So, and Barb has recently reached out to.
do you have an idea on the number that the area will require?
It's looking like about a handful, maybe potentially 2 to 4 to start with, kind of see how it works out, how the transportation piece will work, and then potentially grow from there.
Can I ask what would they be doing? What type of jobs would they be assigned to?
Yeah, I'll let Barb answer some of these questions.
You want me up there?
You can sit back.
Yeah,
there.
I'll catch you from back there.
Okay.
Yep.
The bulk of our employees do various parts of the sausage process, so it could be anything from formulation to slice package to working in our dry rooms, which our plant is very old, so we do that manually. They actually climb up in the bays and hang product.
Oh, wow.
It's very physical labor.
Well, they're gonna work what would be considered normal shift hours?
Yes. I'm not sure. I think I have my second shift close to being filled, so this may be a first shift venture. Originally, it was gonna be a second shift. So,
So do you bring them over like on buses or how, I mean, would they come with the group from Jet?
You can sit down there.
Yeah, there may be a potential to partner with
Yeah.
Jet for the transportation piece. Otherwise, Barb will work that out and provide the transportation back and forth.
And then they are compensated some for their time, right?
Yes, so they're paid a prevailing wage that is provided to us by the Iowa Workforce Development. So our goal is to be an additional labor resource and not displace any Iowan workers. And so they are paid the same as any other civilian worker.
I know.
they would be paid based on our contract wage, which start rate's 15. At 90 days, they go to 16, 6 months, 1750, and a year, 2060 is the very worst they're gonna make.
Okay. Well, I know if you look in the paper, everybody's looking for employees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this the same type? Didn't the city use some of that labor out at the cemetery or?
Years ago, I know they did.
Possibly, yeah,
I
we,
think they trimming around the stones when they were mowing, I think was what they did, if I remember right.
yeah, we outsource in many different ways. We have facilities, manufacturing facilities inside, and then also, again, we're able to partner with private companies on the outside.
Do you have any numbers? Or for the people who are in this program, when they do get out, do they ever stay with their employer? I mean, do you have numbers like that, like 30% stay with the current employer?
Dan might know help with that. Do we have any solid statistics?
Only anecdotes, I know most of the people incarcerated. are not from down
Yeah, they're
there.
not from here locally, yeah.
Right, 40% are from central Iowa, so not as many as we'd like, but I think Barbara's already had a few that are working.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually had two people that are due to be released to the halfway house that have reached out and asked about
Oh,
employment, so I'm just waiting for them to transition.
okay.
So,
Well, it's good information and I hope it works well for you.
that makes two of us.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle. I used to work for IGP in Tyson for 31 years and did a lot of recruiting. I have never struggled this much to fill facility.
Yeah.
Since COVID, it has just been horrible.
And I don't know what the deal is because our population base hasn't gone down that much. It's gone down a little bit, but not that much.
I tell you what I see on the resumes, a lot of short-term work histories. Most people don't keep a job much more than 3 months, and if they do, it's. You want to latch on to them if you can get them.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of very transient workers right now.
That's a good term. Efficient workers. All right.
So
Well, good
any
luck.
other
Best of luck.
questions for our deputy or Barb or myself?
Obviously, you don't, from the company standpoint, see any issues, or you have very few, if any, problems with the folks coming and working in these.
Right, yeah.
You don't,
The history.
I mean, you don't have a history of them getting to work in this kind of a program and then run it off.
Right, Adam, we were just speaking about that deputy warden, that we've been doing it with Jeff for several years and we haven't had any problems at all, so.
Well, I mean, hopefully it's a fair question, but it,
We actually send about 60, 80 guys out every day to different work sites. About an hour from Rockville City and surroundings, so multiple sites.
and the Rockwell City facility is considered what, a
Minimum size.
Minimum.
minimum
We have just shy of 500 guys.
500?
Yep.
Wow.
A bunch.
And you have, what'd you say, 80 total?
60 to
60 to
80.
80?
Yep, they go outside the fence on a day-to-day basis.
So,
That's good.
this
I'm
is,
sure they enjoy that.
Actually, that's, and I don't wanna change ourselves, but that is part of the reason we don't have a lot of problems is because they enjoy getting out. making some
They
money,
can see the steps they have to go through to
And it helps them
re-enter
get
society and.
a release too, so.
so when you get the individual's place, work with Barb, the area, they're gonna be there for X amount of time. They do this.
That's my goal is once they're out to have them maybe transition into full-time.
But I mean, what length of time, and they normally, once everything is put in place, you expect them to be there for a year, 6 months, 2 years? You
Probably
know?
6 to 8 months, I would say.
6 to 8.
The men in Rockwell City are at their,
Towards the end of their.
towards the end of their sentence.
Okay. And obviously, yeah, you wish they would stay.
Oh, heck, yeah.
Yes. But, okay, just didn't know, because some are going to jobs like this, some are going on, well, you mentioned the city, they're part-time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
They're day jobs or part-time projects? Not everybody gets put in a full-time situation. I'm sure there's a very legitimate screening process, who goes where and does what.
Yes. So Barb will have the opportunity to interview people. Adam does some vetting and things like that as well, and kind of decides, who will be working outside the fence. So,
Typically, when I hire, I make people tour before I interview. I want to make sure this is what they want to do.
Mhm.
I've just had better success with that.
Yeah, because when you're sitting in an office and you're interview, you don't have a clue
Yeah.
what's going on.
I want them to see the environment, to be aware of what it is, see how physical it is. I usually have the supervisor stage a couple of things that I know will be obstacles in hiring and have them check it out so that they're aware.
Perfect. Yeah, well, good luck to everybody and thank you.
Thank you.
For making the trip.
Yep, thank you.
This isn't, you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. So we just like to share with the community,
Appreciate that.
you know, what's going on. So you're aware of,
Well, that's nice.
yeah,
Yes, some people don't say, well, who's working here? What's going on?
right.
Very much appreciated.
You have our support.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck,
We
Mark.
appreciate that.
Yep,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Barb.
Employees.
Okay. Moving down.
Barb lived on the street. Barb was.
Roof quote from B&W Control Specialty Specialist for drainage ditch brush control.
Want to move into drainage for that part or?
Oh, that weed.
Now it's.
There's also.
You have anything else? And then we have to approve the change orders. Yeah. I would make said motion to move into drainage for these two items.
Have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All carried.
Okay, so. We'll do the
Do the weed control. first.
weed control first.
Well, this would be brush in the drainage.
Brush. Yeah. So, he gave the different drainage districts, the total comes up to $42,000. And it says it's on that, 3-year rotation of brush control in the drainage ditches. And it's still with B&W Control. His son is now taken over for him, so Nathan.
So what? I don't remember which one we did last year, which quarter.
Well, you'd have to look at where these are located to get your.
I would guess it's gonna be the north half, because you see.
Each one, I mean, if you kind of get your mind around,
11, 7, and
you're gonna be up
Humboldt,
here,
Sioux, so it's up in the north.
You're gonna be up here.
Northwest corner.
Yeah,
Okay,
this general area,
all right.
and it's about a third, however, they've been splitting up the geographic, but it's gonna be in this,
The
you
northwest
know,
corner.
this third this year. And yeah, Nate obviously had been in contact with him, and this is just moving forward. They wanna keep the program the same. It's worked really well.
Yeah,
You know, I've talked with, you know, his dad, of course, a lot, and with Nate, and the counties like ours that have been doing this, they're able to keep the costs down, and the 3-year rotation is just, it works. And he said they've gone into counties that really kind of mismanage their brush control and drainage ditches, and he said it's a complete nightmare.
yeah.
So we've always kept up on that, so we don't have major, you know, trees growing in the ditches, so. So it's a continuation, the north third of the county. I'd make a motion that we accept the brush control quote for 42,000 from B&W Control.
I'll second that.
And that 42,000 is just a give or take.
Yeah, it's typically, these guys have been pretty good. It doesn't typically go over.
Right.
Not saying it won't be right at, because you know, nothing's getting any cheaper,
No.
but
No,
they usually overestimate just a hair rather than under. I don't think Don ever came back to us and said it went over.
all right.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All carried.
all right, and then, the second. Column sent in, it'd be on the second page, I didn't put those in the right order. So from B&B Farm Drainage on, Drainage District 103. They did have a change from their original contract price, which is actually a decrease. $909.80 is what they're decreasing it right now. So they just wanted to get that approved, which wasn't an increase.
That's, I might say this might be the first decrease change order I've ever seen.
Yeah, you don't get them too often.
So they must be getting,
They're about done.
They're 85% done and they're scheduled to be done, April 14th is what it looks at right now. So,
Just not to jinx anything, but the information I got from Colin is that should not be an issue. I don't want to say they're gonna be done
Yeah,
before that, but
Mother Nature's. got
yeah,
thrown.
but things went well. It was a little tough starting out, but then it picked up and they've made extremely good progress. So
Mhm.
he did not see any concerns on the completion date.
perfect.
I'd make a motion to approve the change order.
Number one,
For a negative amount of $909.80.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All carried.
all right, and the last is, submitting payment estimate number 2 from B&B Farm Drainage, in the amount of $122,509.19. And again, they are said to be on schedule and 85% complete.
So will this be a handwritten? Means we had claims last week, or does this just get pushed to next week for the claims?
Probably be pushed to next week.
Okay, I'll make
That's
that
okay.
motion then for the 122,509.19.
I'll second Bruce's motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All carried.
That one,
These are the original.
that's the original.
Yeah,
Oh, here.
yeah, those are the,
Do you have
So
anything
there's-
else? Do that one else?
that is everything for me.
I would just add to that, when you talked with him, make sure that our as-built pictures and all that stuff are up to date for the money that we forwarded to them.
Okay,
He
I
said
can,
it would be, and I'm assuming we're all assuming that.
Check with Colin.
Just
I'll
make
check
sure.
with Colin. Yeah, he said he wasn't available today, but that,
That's fine.
we can,
Well,
check
he
with
did
him, so.
mention in his inspections that they're doing a very good job of relaying any connections and locations, and that was not gonna be an issue. 'Cause he's
I hope not.
well aware of that, starting
Going
even
down
before
that
they
road
started
again.
this, that it's not the as-built missing 3 connections, so that doesn't look like an issue. And he said these guys have been good to work with. There was a concern, starting in the winter, but they got going and the weather, even believe it or not, was semi-cooperative. They moved along pretty well once they got started.
How are we setting Terry on work orders for anything this spring? Are you?
as of
are
right
we
now,
caught up
everything
pretty
is,
much,
yeah,
or-
everything is in, and I started looking at, the levies, and I mean, if this will be in April, then that should be able to be included too, I would assume, but yeah, everything as of right now. I know Rick Peterson, I think is still doing some work in 18.
Yeah, they're in the
That'll-
very downhill slide.
Yeah.
They have sent in,
Pipes.
if you remember, a while back. They're getting down to the very bitter end on that. I
Yeah.
think. So that should be a done deal too.
Mhm.
They soon will be definitely levied in the next levy process.
Yeah, so I've got most of his in, so
Yeah, I don't
that was
think-
just some stragglers, I think.
What do they got? Some rain in the forecast, like Thursday?
I think
And
there's
then
some
next
rain
week
and
there's
snow.
some,
Go to the fixture.
and I guess when I start getting it itched to go out and dig around and seeing moving some dirt, we might have some things that develop as far as repairs and whatnot, so I guess your phone will start ringing more.
Okay, I'll be ready
Well, thank you.
ish.
So I'd say motion to go out of drainage.
I think we're done.
I don't know. We make a motion to go out. Okay.
You can.
Oh, I did. I will. Go out of
I'll
drainage.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All carried.
Yep, thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And that, Chris.
All right.
When do you want my computer?
Well. Whenever, we haven't done it yet, I got another meeting, I'll get up there in my spot.
Yeah, it's real quick. Kind of some stuff that I emailed, it's kind of pertains to the stuff that I emailed out to you guys, and basically what this amounts to. Is one of the big hangups with this conversion that felt from a standard user point. And like I've relayed to everybody I've talked to, I'm probably one of the worst people at it. Is I don't actually save email addresses or people as contacts. I just rely on that autocomplete list, which would be that first picture in the document I just handed. Trish, I don't know if you want that for any sort of reference right now or not. Oh. So that's at the very top picture. So like the example I have there is I just started typing J. And then the list of people whose names and or addresses start with J starts to auto-populate. When we do the conversion, that list disappears. That does not carry over. So honestly, there was a couple different ways it's going to be user based. The individual user is going to have to do it. And the one that the most people in the courthouse seem to agree was the simplest, was the one that continues at the bottom and then over on the other side, which is if you want to save, if you've got some people, you want to actually save as contacts, go to your, probably easiest way is to go to your sent items. So who you've contacted directly recently or however long. And I've got just some, I tried to keep it as direct as I could here, hopefully. So yeah, the step one is select the sent items on the left-hand side instead of inbox should be your typical spot when you're in your email. Go down to an email. So I just picked one I had from Lampy. That'll open that email. That's the bigger window on the right side. If anybody has a different Outlook display than I do, right click that address. And then do the, add to Outlook contacts. So that's all that step 1, 2, 3, and 4 there on that bottom picture. Once you do that add to contacts, you'll get that top picture on the back side of this page. And it doesn't have to, the name doesn't have to be the full email address. You can change it to whatever is more familiar to you or stands out better to you. You can add all the rest of that information there next to the plus signs if you'd like. Again, it's however you want your contact set up. There's no, then you would hit the save button and close it. That's the red X, of course. And then that person, that individual, whatever is now a contact, which would carry over. Now, the other upside to doing it this way is you can do this at any time. So it doesn't have to be done before we do the conversion. The sent items stuff will come over. It's just that autocomplete, which is something Microsoft has never provided direct access to that file in a clear, clean way that isn't kind of tedious and time consuming to convert that over. So again, just kind of in discussion with some of the folks in the different departments here at the courthouse, they kind of agreed. The consensus was the sent item seems to be the fastest. The sheriff's office, jailers, and dispatch have been on the conversion for a month now. And that's what they found was the easiest as well. So
for your informational email recently about this.
Yeah.
But if you have someone in your contacts, they transfer.
Yes. Yep.
The contacts transfer over.
The contact, yep, but you just
wasn't.
Yep, your autocomplete stuff. Like as you can see, Jay, I only have one, so you'll see if you care, like be the fourth one down there when I type in Jay. Of the 7 that are displayed there, only one of them is an actual contact. That's the DeWillifon Janelle. The rest of them are all autocomplete. So I'm every bit as bad, if not worse, than most people are as far as relying on the autocomplete list myself. So
question.
Yeah.
So as this conversion, if you do have these people in your contacts already today,
Yep.
that transfers over.
Yep.
And you type in, will it pull from the contacts for the auto?
Yep. It'll
Just
if you have them as a contact.
If you have them as a contact today,
Yes.
that will go, if you're typing in and I'm trying to get a hold of you, but
Correct.
you're in my contacts. Chris will come up.
It'll show up. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so-
just a way to go back and find people that
Yeah,
Plug in your contacts, if you knew you got something from, you just go back and find. it,
Yep.
Put them in your.
Put them in your
contacts.
contacts, you know,
Gotcha.
I might be out of the game.
So do we have
But I-
to notify like boards that we're on?
What about the change to the
Like
address?
Udmo or?
yeah, no,
Or will they be notified that we are changing from?
only by the people that communicate. That was another part of what I wanted to kind of get to, is something else that had come up. Is, well, number one, to answer that question, will they be notified by us? Only if the people that contact them, like, hey, my email is gonna change. One thing that has been common, I've seen in some of the other counties, and even some people have, said, hey, I'll just do this in my email for the time being. Is as part of their email signature, you can have that, like mine says Chris Madison, IT director, for every email I send out, you can put in there, hey, no, my email address will be changing to breimers@Humboldt County, Iowa, or humboldtcounty.iowa.gov. The other thing, if there's somebody that slips through those cracks, the notification, if you don't want to do the signature thing, and if anybody does, I can certainly help you out with that. Anything they send to your current email address, so your current Humboldt County IA.org will go to your new one. But if you were to reply to it, it's gonna come back to them as your new email address.
Okay.
I see, so they'll see that.
Yep.
Click on, it, they'll have it.
Yep. So that, yeah, there's a couple different ways. Like I said, you can give them a heads up or
Okay.
assume they'll figure it out when you start replying back to them.
So the big thing is, you'll still get your emails.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's kind of unfortunate. There's a lot of them I wish it.
I know.
Wish this would thin some of that out. so I can
Yeah.
You don't want.
Start over with the people I just do want to get it from.
And unfortunately, you don't even lose the ones where the hour and a half, 2 hours, it's down during the conversion because it just queues the mail. And then once the connection becomes active, then it spews all those up.
Start shuffling them, right?
Yeah,
You really won't lose anything.
no,
I
No.
might check with you on the signature thing, because that's probably a good thing. You want people to get the updated.
Sure.
Email.
Yep.
Does this old one ever go away?
it doesn't have to.
Doesn't it at some point in time?
It could if we wanted it to. Otherwise, it can stay there too for the, for the foreseeable future.
Really?
Mhm.
Interesting.
Everybody you sign up to at all these conventions and tooling.
Like I said, there's a lot of them I wish would just go away. I don't know where some of this stuff comes from. Not applicable at all. When do you expect this conversion to?
I was, like I said, I was hoping for the end of March. But the guy the gentleman I'd be working with, we have basically another ramp up meeting, but there's not near as much to it. Not until this Thursday morning with him. So hoping best case scenario would be either Wednesday evening or Thursday evening of next week, just seeing what his schedule looks like and barring any sort of catastrophe around here that we've got to, put that off for another week or so.
Is that our office as well?
You guys would be able to at that point? Yes. Yep. Like I said, but like you and I have talked, you guys, conservation and Delana will be slightly different animals than the rest of, because you've always been on gold fields. Yep.
That you did get all the conservation and everybody all on the same system now?
We are testing it currently with Ben. We'll worry about, I was just gonna do one entity at a time with that right now. Conservation, they don't seem to be in their offices a whole lot as far as direct connected. I want to test it with Ben, see how they like it. They've got a bit more warm bodies in there on a daily basis. And then we can move over, but we have a signed 3-year agreement with Goldfield right now, or Com1, sorry. Someday I'll get over calling them Goldfield. And it is the connection that we have between us and Ben is going to cost $50 a month.
That'll be, buddy, it won't be separate anymore.
Right, yep. And Ben we've got some fine tuning to do, but these guys are now using our phone system.
Good.
So.
And you're working towards that with conservation too.
Yes.
After you get done with secondary road.
Yeah, like I said, with Ben needing the phones anyway, or his area needing the phones. Because their system was dying off. And again, they'd have more warm bodies, i.e. more
network usage on a daily basis than conservation, so I figure we'll let them test it first, make sure everything's good, and then we'll include conservation.
Excellent.
One more thing to the office, real quick. Everybody's Outlook will work that you guys have installed on your laptops. If you use the Outlook, if you go to the web, you're gonna be hunky-dory and nothing really change other than the email address you put in. But within the next, I would say within 2 years, you guys will want to decide, what you want to do office-wise for devices and things like that. So just something to, again, I know this is quite a bit of notice, it could be changed now if you wanted. But it's not imperative for right now. Outlook 2016 is still supported, so you'd still be good to go for a couple more years. Yep.
Windows 11 too, right?
Yes, yeah, the grandma clause.
Well, I want the most updated version I can get because I'm on it continually. I'm hoping to be changed over in that 2-year period.
Telling you that you've made some changes to our firewall and that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess I was just going off the verbatim as it was. I was trying to keep it. Yeah, the firewall, we've gotten stuff set up. You guys were aware that we put that in place. We do have it currently any wired device. So basically every workstation everybody sits at. And Ben's here, he can confirm it with me now. All video streaming is currently being blocked, so people can't sit and watch Hulu, Netflix, stuff like. We can still get to YouTube because there is still, well, A, that's where Trish puts these videos. B, I know Ben's guys, myself, there's plenty of YouTube videos out there for help for informational wise. So, but other than that, any of the, I guess I would consider more recreational video streaming stuff is now currently blocked. It is not getting through. So that's been I think a huge help. Huge help there. We might as well bring up some safety stuff. Ben was diligently testing the emergency button on the phones a couple weeks ago.
No.
Or maybe
We got the new phone system and I'm a little kid that has to push all the buttons to do before we had labels on the phones, and one of the buttons was
emergency
button, which dials out 911 without actually typing in 911. Saw
You got
that.
visitors?
Huh?
You had visitors?
No, saw that quick, hung up, and 30 seconds later, I get a call from Chris. It's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, nothing. Why are you calling me? He's like, she just called 911.
And it's listed on everybody's
So then
phone.
it sends an alert to every desktop phone that
on our system. Yep.
I dialed 911.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're going. That's how I knew Ben called 911. Is the phone makes a funky, almost siren-y sound, and then on the display it shows 911 and some arrows and who dialed it.
Well, thanks for checking that out, man.
So I don't know what that did for Ben's self-esteem since I was the only one that checked on him, but.
Well, I mean, at least one person.
Make sure we're okay.
But that does legitimately dial in the 911.
Yep, it did. So we inadvertently learned that on the phone system. I wasn't here. I was gone with sinus infection last Monday, but apparently Modern Sound was here. Mr. Happy, and he claims the panic buttons are now working again. So.
That's good.
Excellent.
So. Got that.
Now we're double panicked.
Yes, yeah.
During our safety security meetings that we've talked about how you can notify other offices if there's a potential issue. Now we know there's 2 ways.
Yep.
That's good to have a backup.
Button.
Yes, for sure.
Something isn't working, now something will work.
Yep.
That's the way to
Yep.
Just another way to
cross
notify.
over.
Yep. all the offices that there's an issue.
I mean, then really, I guess to put in maybe a bigger scenario, like in Ben's off area where you're more isolated, you know, I might be in a corner of the basement, but somebody will see me.
Right.
But you know, if it's just you were there that day or just Kim was there that day, somebody sees a 911 call, hey, I got a free moment, maybe we should run out there just to make sure there's nothing serious happening.
Well, at least Chris will.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody else.
Sorry, Ben.
I think their response was, why is that listed on my phone?
Yes, that was a lot of it.
And how do you get him off of there now?
Right,
You
yeah.
get no respect.
Sorry.
So I can't, yeah, as far as the office, the video streaming is currently blocked. We do still allow it on the wireless. I guess if you want to run your phone battery dead, that's on you. Yeah, the security, the panic buttons are back working. We stumbled into that extra feature in the phone system we weren't aware of at the time, so.
So the takeaway would be update contacts into your Outlook if you wanna.
Yeah, and like I said, that doesn't have to be done before the conversion, because the sent items will come over. So if you, I mean, even if you wanted to wait and be like, you know, I start typing in D Lee, crap, I never actually saved him. You know I've sent him an email though, so then I can, yeah.
You don't have
Yep.
to save it.
Yep, you don't have to, right? You prefer I didn't? Okay.
I look at the county computer twice a week, usually on Monday and one on Friday, just to make sure nobody changed meeting.
And Bruce, I guess back to your statement, and you may have been being sarcastic at the time, but we could update you. It's $12 a month.
Well, I'd save the 12 and I'll just stay with her.
Stay with what you got for now? Okay.
You only have 32 more minutes, keep talking.
Well, I think we're
I
good.
don't wanna.
Ben?
Ben, hey, Ben.
Oh, we gotta.
Did she come in person or?
I think it's gonna be on the phone, isn't it?
They're coming in
Oh,
person.
she's coming.
That's why it's later,
Oh, okay.
because they had to drive.
Oh, we can get everything else.
You got anything else, Chris?
All right.
Off, right now, I don't think so.
Yes.
Thank you very much. for the
Yes.
update.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, thank you.
If I have trouble, I'll bring the computer in.
Absolutely.
I'm, I might
Twice a week.
just, and if I can't figure this out on my own, which I probably can, but
Mhm.
that notification of email.
Oh, the signature
When you
thing?
send it,
Yep. Yeah.
and that way I'll kind of get up to speed. 'Cause
Yeah.
Well, I asked if, you'd like to kind of get, when it gets converted over,
Mhm.
get to that and not be going back and forth.
Well, and hopefully this meeting Thursday morning, we'll be able to define a dead set date. So you could even say as of, let's say, and I'm just gonna throw a date out there, April 3rd. My address would be eunderberg@humboldtcounty.iowa.gov.
Is the only thing that's changed on the address, .gov.
Well, right now it's Humboldt County IA, all one thing. It'll be humboldtcounty.iowa.gov.
.iowa.
Yep.
Humboldt County.
Very similar, but just a little
.iowa.
different.
Yeah, see, so we have to have the .iowa in there because it's free if we get our .gov through the state of Iowa.
Oh, good.
So,
.iowa.
but the requirement is it has to state that you are a county and that it's in the state of Iowa. So that's why it ends up so long.
Okay.
I still like your idea though.
Oh, the Iowa 46?
IA 46.
Just for conversations, I spoke with Ben this week.
I'll get out of the way, sir. It's not
Thanks,
around my
Chris.
big
Thanks,
head.
Chris.
Yep.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Getting an auction thrown together to get rid of some stuff. I also talked to Paul downstairs, kind of walking through the courthouse here and showed me some stuff that he'd like to get rid of. He don't have a lot of much good stuff.
Yeah.
Just some tables and chairs and a few filing cabinets and,
Oh,
like I said, we've got a lot of empty filing cabinets in the basement. A lot of them. But then I spoke with,
Don't get rid of all of them, if somebody needs one.
yeah,
what are you thinking? Taking a little more sale or?
no, I think we'll do an auction just over at the building, because we got all that stuff sitting there already. Why would we want to move?
Last time we did county auction, I think we did it in the Dakota City yard behind conservation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We got plenty of room to set stuff out there.
What are you thinking?
That's what I
I got
mentioned to
talked
Ben.
to Todd and find out when it works for him.
Let the weather get a little nicer, maybe
Yeah.
Yeah,
end of April or something.
be pretty quick, but yeah.
Oh, a little later than that,
I was thinking a little bit later than that even, you know,
After the crops are
mid-May.
in.
Yeah.
end of May.
Mid-May, end of May. hopefully
Okay,
the
that's
crop's
fine.
All in by then. And-
Good idea, get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You got some stuff?
Well, I know we got a old pole behind generator that can go away. We've got a asphalt roller and trailer that's be good for somebody rolling their yard, but I mean, for us, it's not really usable. Every time we run it, we gotta put the battery in and just,
Can we put that building on it?
Yeah, and then we
we're
put the,
thinking put the building on where somebody can bid on it to
tear it down,
tear it down and salvage the material.
Which building?
that big, long, 160-foot tin shed over there, whatever line it is.
How about the one at the landfill?
Well, that was a thought too. I think we might just. Could do that one on there too.
Yeah.
But we can also look
See
at
it.
someone, neighbor, someone that would be interested in just picking it up,
Jacking
moving
it,
it
moving it.
over to their land too.
I gotta get permission from the landfill.
Right.
Maybe
We'll
first,
get you that next week.
so.
Okay, let's do committee report. Very,
Okay, well, going back to. Going back to Tuesday, March 7th. Had a decategorization meeting that afternoon in Webster City. And then on Wednesday afternoon, I helped with the food pantry items distribution in Livermore. And I was gone last week, so I didn't have anything, so that's all I have.
good, Rick.
I had a housing meeting on Wednesday at City Hall at 3 o'clock. And that's all I had last week.
On Wednesday, the 15th, I attended the ministerial meeting up at Our Savior's Lutheran. They were in the process of getting ready for the meals from the Heartland, but the ministers got together in one of the rooms up there. Kyle was there, reached out to the ministers as far as putting a plan together in case of some type of catastrophe in Humboldt or Humboldt County or the close area, tornado, flood, whatever. And putting the process together for using a church if we had a large part of town impacted where we needed a roof and place for people to sleep, which was greeted by the ministers that were there with open arms, that they would willing to do that. So he also was on his way over to the rec center in order to, so at least I see part of our process that we have people lining things up in our county that we need done. The ministers were, like I said, very happy to oblige him, and he's supposedly gonna get paperwork to, if we need something signed or if it's just a verbal agreement or however that worked. So that was nice to witness. That was all I had for the week.
Okay, on the 15th. Had the housing, Humboldt County Development Housing Association at 3 o'clock. 6 o'clock, I went to the county conservation meeting. And they were supposed to have an update on the dam, but they didn't. I think an email was sent out to everybody. And their opinion is they kicked it down the road long enough that if they don't have something next meeting, be third Wednesday of next month, they're just ready to leave the dam alone and forget it. Was their opinion on it.
Well, according to that email, they have put together things, but I don't think Brett was gonna be here, so rather than try to do it over the phone or. That was the way I understood it. So they're gonna have it next month, and I guess, like everybody else, we're tired of it. If they come up with a plan, let's try to get something at least moving forward, like you say, kicking it down the road. Everybody's tired of it.
Yep.
So I think, I'm assuming Brett was either gone or unable to attend, and that was the reason that was backed off, but there was.
I don't think
He
he was unable.
I don't
to-
know, I understood.
That report
wasn't quite complete.
Well.
That was a synopsis. It was close, but it wasn't complete anyway, so.
So,
And they talked about the campground in Lower Sheldon, that's coming along pretty good. The shower house is about finished. And then they talked a little bit about the putting more full camper sites in Upper Sheldon, or not upper, but the Lower Sheldon up on top. I think it said 15 or so more camper sites, full hookup. And then they're talking about building the shelter next year.
The building trades is going to be building the shelter, and typically the Humboldt County Housing handles the funds for these building trades houses, where the flow through, they, take the money in, pay it out. But this time it'll go directly through conservation. The bill to go through the conservation, it'll be their money that will be funding. So county housing doesn't have much to do with that project.
Yep. So that's all I had. Anybody else got anything to discuss? If not, we'll take a recess till 10:30 or until Denise gets here.
alrighty.
Shut her owl off till then.
Yeah.
Kenya?
I began being in recess.
Watched any baseball last night?